Hello, you are listening to another edition of the Korea Pod. My name is Henry Shin. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you receive podcasts. It does help to get the word out, and we always do appreciate the support. So, we're going to be talking about somebody who has been in the public eye for quite a number of years. At one point, I would say was one of the hottest, if not the hottest idol star here in the country. And we're talking about Goo Hara, who was a former member of the female idol group Kara. And at one point, Kara was one of the top 3 idol groups in the country. She was sort of the headliner of that group and really the most prominent member of that group. A lot of adoration from the fans, always in the public spotlight. As I said, at one point, maybe one of the most recognizable stars in the country. Even right now, obviously, a very recognizable star, both here in Korea and all around the world, to the millions of K-pop devotees that are around. So this recent story came as a shock to a lot of people and kind of compounded some of the recent controversies that Kara has been involved in. Some of the recent controversies in recent years involving Goo Hara included a photo that surfaced on social media, which some people who saw it thought it was a marijuana joint, and that led to a big backlash against her. She had to come out and later say, no, it wasn't marijuana, which is a huge taboo still in Korea, which obviously is very different from other parts of the world where smoking marijuana has become less of a big deal and in fact has been legalized in many places, but here in Korea still very much a taboo. She said it wasn't that illicit drug and it was actually just a cigarette, which also led to some backlash because a lot of people felt that a person who is a member of the idol groups shouldn't be smoking. It's a very antiquated, very sort of backwards way of viewing gender roles in the country where women are not supposed to be, if they are a proper woman, smoking cigarettes in public. And so that kind of mentality still holds sway. I mean, aside from the fact that obviously smoking is very bad for you and detrimental to your health. And so if you can, you should probably try to not smoke cigarettes. However, that was one of those many controversies that sort of surrounded her. There were also some spurious rumors that she had checked into a hospital. Some of the malicious rumors were that she was there because of an attempted suicide attempt, and that was later refuted, saying that she was under treatment for various other maladies. And so there have been, throughout the years, and I'm just mentioning a couple of them, some controversies in regards to her as a public figure. Now, this most recent controversy really erupted kind of out of the blue, where there was a claim, there was a police report filed by the boyfriend of Goo Hara, who claimed that she essentially beat him up. And it, again, shocked the entire nation. The guy claimed that he had gone to Goo Hara's place late at night, attempting to break up with her, and that she went into a violent rage, started hitting and scratching him. He came out forward with the photos of his face being scratched up, and so he filed this police report of assault. Now, naturally, when that came out, a lot of people were shocked, dismayed, a lot of criticism leveled at Goo Hara, saying, you're being very, very erratic in your behavior. And we only got to hear this one side of the story. This boyfriend, or I guess you can say ex-boyfriend now, he did an interview subsequently with 조선일보, and he basically laid out his side of the story where he talked about how they first met, that Goo Hara was the one that pursued him initially when they met on some cable TV program. He is actually a hairstylist, and he is considered to be apparently one of the more prominent hairstylists in the Gangnam area. And so they met, he says she pursued him. They developed a relationship, and they've been dating for a little bit. And so what his kind of contention is that it wasn't a happy relationship. He says that she's a very high-maintenance person, very erratic, and he's had thoughts of wanting to end this relationship for quite a while now, but every time he would bring it up, that she would become again erratic or kind of throw tantrums. And so he finally mustered up the courage to do so on that one fateful day, late at night, going to her house, packing up his bags and saying that he wanted to break up. And that's when he claims this violent attack occurred, how she flew into a rage and just started beating him up. The question was asked then, you are a guy, and not to be sexist, but it is assumed that you are physically stronger than her. Why were you not able to stop this attack? And did you also in turn attack her? And he says no, he in his entire life has never been involved in a fist fight, and even more so, he would never hit a woman, and that there was no way he could ever physically strike, especially someone who is an entertainer like Goo Hara, someone who depends on her looks to be in the public spotlight, that he would never do that to her. So he basically just bore the brunt of the attacks. That was his claim. And so that led to him having all these injuries on his face. And he also claimed that he also, maybe not to a greater extent as a big star like Goo Hara, but he's also that in a position as a hairstylist where he has to rely on his public appearance, his physical attributes, his face, and that he's basically saying that his career has suffered a setback because he's all scratched up and he can't go to work in that condition. And so he filed this police report. He's saying that he wasn't going to do so, but basically he wanted to set the record straight as to what happened because Goo Hara has been saying that this was not an attack, a physical attack, an assault on this boyfriend, that this was actually a so-called mutual fight. Both parties were hitting each other, and she was not the aggressor in that attack. So he wanted to set the record straight and basically put it out there, and that's why he gave that interview to 조선일보. He said that he was willing to cooperate with the police investigation with this report that he had filed. And so that was where the story was. And as you can imagine, with public opinion and the netizens and how people sort of all swarm to one side of an opinion when it seems like the narrative is going that way, a lot of heat on Goo Hara and kind of a lot of commenting on what her personality is like, why she's behaving so wildly, and not a positive picture being painted, as you can imagine. So what happened after that? Then Goo Hara decided that she had to set the record straight for herself, at least tell her side of the story. And so she had an exclusive interview with this entertainment rag known as Dispatch. And in this interview, she painted basically a completely opposite story from what the boyfriend recounted with his interview with 조선일보. So in the Dispatch interview, Goo Hara basically said that, yeah, they were dating, that normally he's a very kind and affectionate boyfriend, but he would fly into fits of jealous rage whenever it involved any male acquaintance that she happened to be with. And so because of these constant fits of violent jealousy, she wanted to end the relationship as well. So what she's saying is basically that this guy was being the clingy one, that he was this jealous boyfriend, and she didn't really enjoy the relationship after a while. So her recounting of what happened that night is that this guy was apparently super pissed off. This boyfriend was very angry because she had a meal with this other acquaintance, this guy that the boyfriend was very jealous with. And so he was extremely angry about that. And that night in question where this alleged attack took place, she said that she was sleeping in her house and the boyfriend came in and basically woke her up. He was drunk, apparently, according to her, and he woke her up by kicking the side of her bed or kicking her and saying, "Wake up." And they apparently left the room because she was sleeping with her roommate. And that's when the argument started. And what she is saying is that this was definitely not a one-sided attack on her. This was both people fighting. And she was basically essentially saying whatever damage, physical damage that she did to him was purely out of self-defense. She was saying how he was pushing her, that he shoved her against a whiteboard, that he threw an air purifier or something like that, and that she also suffered injuries. It wasn't apparent because her face wasn't injured, and so there were no visible marks like that, but she did produce evidence of the kind, including medical reports from obstetricians, so gynecologists, and medical reports from orthopedics, like sports medicine doctors. And these medical reports show that she had bruises. She also had damage to her internal organs, including in her genitalia. And the recommendation was that she have a week of rest. She be checking herself into a hospital to get that rest. And so she produced the photos of the bruises. She produced the medical reports, and she also produced some of these Kakao Talk messages that apparently were being passed back and forth between her and this boyfriend. And the messages basically were about her being worried that he was going to go public with all of this, basically to maliciously ruin her career by saying that she was this violent person. And she was trying to keep this from being out in the public. And so she pleaded with him saying, let's not handle it this way. This guy that you're jealous about, I can bring him over and we can have a talk together to clear up any misunderstandings you may have about why you're so jealous about this guy. You said that you wanted him to come down and kneel in front of you, which, as you know, in Korea is a huge sign of subservience and degradation, to be quite frank. And so he's going to do that for you. And then the boyfriend apparently replied, I don't want to talk to him. I don't need that kind of thing. And he was sarcastic in his response that, you guys seem like you're going to be together for a while. Enjoy your night. And I don't want to disturb your whatevers. And so it sort of, with the text messages, it seemed to imply, or sort of again kind of boost her narrative that this was a jealous guy. He was very angry, and that he was, if not petty, but malicious in his intentions to try and damage her career by going public. So that Dispatch article came out. Dispatch also claimed that they received some anonymous tips, or some people who were trying to, a person who was trying to push a story forward about Goo Hara being involved in this kind of a scandal, and that they should follow her up. And they showed that those messages came, and it appeared that that number that the message was sent to Dispatch was indeed the number of this boyfriend. So the way the Dispatch story sort of wrapped everything up was basically siding with Goo Hara with this story, and also even producing further evidence that this person was up to no good by even trying to, initially before the entire thing erupted, try to get his story kind of published through Dispatch by offering this sort of exclusive tip. You guys want the story, you should contact me. And apparently that's what they tried to do. He did not respond. He went with other outlets, and that's how this story initially came out. So you had the boyfriend giving that one side of the story where he was being attacked. You had Goo Hara then telling her side of the story where she claimed that she was just trying to handle a jealous boyfriend. He came in, was belligerent, drunk, into her house. She tried to handle the situation, and it erupted into this two-way fight with both sides kind of attacking each other, and her only doing so because she was trying to protect herself with this drunken, violent, jealous boyfriend. What happens after that? Well, the police still have this report that was filed on alleged assault, and so they are investigating the matter. They called in the boyfriend for questioning. He came in, and he spoke with them for a little over 4 hours. He told reporters that he was compelled to come and give a full accounting to the police because of the fact that this dispatch interview with Goo Hara came out and he said it was completely false, and he needed to disprove these allegations that she levied against him. He also seemed to claim that these medical reports, especially from the gynecologist, were false, and he was going to try to disprove all of those claims of injuries. And so he came out, he gave his side of the story to the police. It was apparent he does have facial injuries. He does have scratches on his face. And up till now, as of this recording, his public identity has not been revealed yet. Although if you dig beneath the surface, as a lot of netizens do here in Korea, you can probably find who this guy is, but we're not going to dox him here. Now for Goo Hara, she also, after the boyfriend gave his testimony to the police, she came in for questioning as well. And she also appeared in public. She, again, looked fairly healthy despite the circumstances. She does not have any visible marks on her face. She does have some bandages or wrappings on her arms. She came in, she said she wanted to give her side of the story as well. She was also interviewed for quite an extended time, a bit over 5 hours of questioning by the police. And then she came out. And then one interesting twist with this story, and she made some interesting comments when the reporters asked her about the actual incident where the attacks took place, where she said, basically, it's not important who hit who first. It's important as to what the actual incident took place and who was the aggressor and who was the supposed victim. So it was sort of a little bit of a kind of shifting of tone where it appeared that during the police questioning, the question of who was the aggressor and who hit her first and who was sort of the person who started the fight seemed to have come up, and Goo Hara, being sort of aware of the optics of that, was basically saying, even if I'm the one who kind of threw the first punch or whatever you want to metaphorically say it as, it does not mean that she was the one that was the attacker in this incident, and that there were other sort of extenuating circumstances that led to this fight. Now, we're in a situation where you're hearing both sides of the story, and it's that classic he said, she said type of deal, right? You got one side giving one version of the events, you got the other side giving another version of events, and you're left wondering, well, whose story is more compelling? Whose story is seemingly more credible? And that's where your opinions will lie. It's been kind of fascinating to see how the public opinion has sort of shifted, sort of like a roller coaster, as the details have emerged. When it originally came out that the guy filed a police report, this boyfriend claimed that he was beaten up by Goo Hara, who is this world-famous entertainer, almost a household name here in Korea and in many parts of the world. It was sort of juicy gossip, but a lot of people immediately kind of came to the conclusion, man, this celebrity is pretty crazy and wild and violent enough to kind of make that much of an attack, which leads to that much damage done to this, what you assume to be is a healthy young man. And so that was the initial narrative and how it was framed. And then when Goo Hara came out with the dispatch interview, you saw then the public opinion sort of shift wildly back to the other side, where they're saying, who is this guy? Is this guy a gold digger? What is he trying to prove with these false allegations that he's bringing up? Why is he trying to ruin Goo Hara's career? And Goo Hara should be more careful in how she chooses who to date. And you can't just date some random dude who's going to do these kind of things to you. It's sort of this cautionary tale for celebrities who are always in the public eye and who can always be sort of victim or succumb to these kind of controversies. And so you got to just be very, very judicious in how you carry yourself and who you associate yourself with. And so again, at the time of this taping, nothing conclusive has been really put forth yet to definitively say which side is more credible than the other. It really is in the eye of the beholder. Public opinion seems to have shifted dramatically from one way to another, and ultimately the police will have to come to the bottom of this. But it really does go to show that if you are a celebrity and if you're in the public spotlight and you are involved in incidents like this, it can be life-altering. It can be something that consumes not just your own life and well-being, but it is something that everybody in the country then talks about, because this was almost front page news for a couple of days when this story first erupted, and then these additional details started getting to the surface. So he said, she said, Goo Hara has her story, this boyfriend has his story. It's a murky, sordid affair. You can say that definitively nobody comes out of this looking absolutely great, but we'll see what happens. And I think we can safely say this is probably not the last time we see something similar to this, unfortunately, come out from the Korean entertainment world. All right, that's going to do it for us. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back with another edition of the Korea Pod. Until then, my name is Henry Shin. Goodbye.